She stared at the door, her heart shattered. He'd stayed behind, but she was the one who had to leave. Before we dive in, have you ever had to leave someone you loved? Tell me about it in the comments. And if you believe love can survive separation, hit that subscribe button. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Emily is packing her things, preparing to leave the small town that she grew up in. She's at the edge of a new chapter, but her heart is torn. The camera lingers on her as she stuffs clothes into a suitcase, avoiding the picture of her and Jake as children on the shelf. The emotional wound runs deep. Emily doesn't want to leave, but she feels she has to for her own sake. I can't stay, Jake. I need to figure out who I am, outside of here, outside of us. Jake's silent presence in the kitchen across the room speaks volumes. His gaze flickers with pain, but he doesn't argue, not anymore. Jake is on his usual morning walk, passing through the town square. He's trying to stay composed, but it's clear that the weight of Emily's decision is pulling him down. The town feels smaller, emptier without her. He knows that the life he's been waiting for, this quiet, stable love, might never come. A series of intimate moments between Emily and Jake. They're both avoiding the inevitable. Emily clings to the small moments of connection, but every glance or half-smile between them only deepens the tension. There's a palpable sense of impending loss, and we can see the cracks forming. You know you're always welcome to come back, right? Jake says with a soft chuckle. But Emily isn't sure if that's something she wants anymore. The tension of unspoken words is deafening. Emily wants to believe leaving is the right thing, but deep down, she knows Jake's patience might be the very thing that will break her heart. Emily leaves the house, closing the door behind her for the last time. She doesn't look back, at least not physically, but we can see the hesitation in her stride. Jake watches her go from the porch, arms crossed, his heart still tethered to her. But neither of them knew. Fate had already decided the rest. Jake shows up at Emily's apartment in the city. The collision is immediate. He's been waiting for her to reach out, but it's him who has to make the first move. There's urgency in his footsteps as he approaches her door. He knocks, no longer hiding behind the walls he's built for years. Emily answers, but there's a flicker of shock in her eyes, quickly masked by a false smile. The confrontation is electric. Emily wants to explain, but Jake's voice shakes with desperation. He's done waiting. He's tired of being the one to carry all the emotional weight. Why didn't you stay? His question is raw personal. He wants to know if there's a part of him that ever mattered to her. If you've ever fought for someone who didn't want to be fought for, you know how it feels. Subscribe if you believe that sometimes love means waiting for the right moment to fight. Emily pushes him away, her voice trembling. She insists that she left for herself, to find out who she is, not because she doesn't care. But Jake isn't convinced. The tension in the room is suffocating, each trying to justify their side, both too scared to confront what's really at the heart of their pain. Neither wants to admit that they still love each other. The emotional whiplash is brutal. Jake wants to believe she made the right choice, but he can't hide his resentment anymore. Emily wants to believe that she can be happy without him, but she's never been more uncertain. They're caught in a standoff, neither willing to let down their walls. Pride is a liar. And theirs was about to cost them everything. The rain had started when Jake stepped into the coffee shop. The small bell above the door chimed, the warm scent of brewing coffee swirling in the air. It was a quiet, ordinary Tuesday, except nothing about this felt ordinary. Nothing felt the same anymore. He ordered his usual black coffee, and sat at the corner table by the window. The mist outside blurred the world into muted grays, mirroring the storm brewing inside him. He thought she'd come by now. She always did, didn't she? But there was no Emily. No familiar wave as she walked through the door with that crooked smile she reserved only for him. Jake hadn't heard from her since their last confrontation. She hadn't come home. His phone was still silent, and that gnawing feeling, the one that told him maybe he'd lost her for good, was growing louder with every tick of the clock. An hour passed, and just as Jake was about to leave, the door creaked open. There she was, standing just inside, hair damp, eyes red from the same rain that had soaked her clothes. She looked tired, defeated. It was obvious that something had broken inside her, but the walls she built were still up. She wasn't ready to face him. Not yet. She spotted him, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. It wasn't awkward, it was something else entirely. Something deeper. The room felt smaller. There was no denying the weight between them. Jake glanced down at his coffee, the liquid now cold. His hand gripped the mug tightly, but it was her soft voice that broke the silence. "Jake, I didn't think you'd be here," Emily said, her tone flat but trembling. Jake's chest tightened, and he couldn't hide the frustration anymore. "I couldn't stay away. I thought maybe you'd need to talk." She took a deep breath, looking anywhere but at him. "I don't know what to say. I didn't want to hurt you." Her words hit harder than he expected. He could feel the guilt in every syllable. "Then why did you leave?" Jake's voice cracked despite his effort to remain steady. He didn't mean to ask it like that, raw, desperate, but it was too late. Emily's eyes flickered to his, but only for a moment. She shifted uncomfortably. "Because I need to figure things out, Jake. I need to be sure of who I am, outside of this place, outside of you." Jake wanted to shout, to pull her back, to make her see how much she meant to him. But there was nothing left to say that hadn't been said. Emily didn't understand the simple truth. She had always been the answer to his question. He'd known her since they were kids, and in his heart, he'd always known that she was home. "I get it, Em," Jake said quietly, the words almost breaking apart in his throat. "I get that you need space, but it's killing me. I can't be someone who's waiting around, hoping you'll come back. I'm trying, but damn it, every time you walk away, it feels like a piece of me goes with you." Emily didn't respond at first. The silence grew heavy, wrapping around them like an invisible chain. Then, just as Jake's frustration was about to boil over, Emily spoke. "I didn't leave because I don't love you," she whispered, barely audible over the hum of the rain. "I left because I do." Her admission hit Jake like a freight train. All these months of waiting for her to come back, all this time spent trying to understand why she'd gone, and now she was admitting it. But it didn't change anything. It didn't change the fact that she was still walking away. "Then why, Emily?" Jake asked, his voice breaking. "Why couldn't we just figure this out together?" "I don't know. I don't know why I'm running. But I am." Her voice trembled, and for the first time in a long while, Emily let the mask slip. Her walls crumbled, and Jake saw the girl she used to be, the one who once shared secrets beneath the stars, who held his hand when things got hard. The girl who had once promised she would never leave. But now, she was a stranger to him, and it hurt. They sat in silence for a long time, the world outside a blur of rain and headlights. Neither of them said anything more. What was left to say? All the words had been spoken, and yet none of them were enough to fix what had been broken between them. Jake watched Emily as she stood up to leave, her steps slow, dragging as if each movement took a part of her soul. "Will you ever come back?" Jake's question was quiet, but it hung in the air, unanswered. As Emily stepped outside, she glanced back once, her eyes searching for something in Jake's face, but she didn't find it. Not this time. Before she could make it to her car, Emily paused. The streetlight outside flickered, casting long shadows across her figure. Jake couldn't move. He stayed frozen, waiting, knowing that what came next might just be the last chance they'd ever have. Her hand hesitated on the car door, and for the briefest of moments, it felt like she was going to turn back to him. She looked toward him, but then just as quickly, she let her hand drop. The moment was gone. There was no turning back now. But sometimes, the universe has a way of writing its own endings. The sun had set over the town, casting long shadows across the empty streets. It was quiet. Too quiet. The only sound was the occasional hum of a passing car and the distant call of a train in the far-off distance. It was the kind of night where everything seemed to stand still, waiting for something, anything, to change. Jake sat on the front porch of the old house he grew up in. His elbows rested on his knees, eyes fixed on the dark horizon. It had been 3 days since Emily walked out. He didn't know what hurt more, the fact that she left or the fact that she hadn't come back. He wanted to pick up the phone. He wanted to send her a message, anything, just to break the silence. But each time he reached for his phone, his hand faltered. He knew that if he did, it would be the same words, the same pain, the same argument. They had already said everything that needed to be said. No matter how many times they talked, nothing changed. Nothing ever seemed to change. Emily was sitting at the kitchen table in her small apartment, the glow of the streetlights filtering through the blinds. It felt like the world outside was moving on, but inside, everything stood still. The same walls, the same loneliness. She stared at the phone in her hand, her finger hovering over Jake's name. She could call him. She could tell him how sorry she was, how much she missed him, how lost she felt without him. But she didn't. She couldn't. She wasn't sure if it was pride or fear or something deeper that kept her from reaching out. It had been her choice to leave, to step into the unknown. But in the quiet moments, like now, alone in the dark, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like an emptiness that swallowed everything whole. The next morning, Jake stood in the doorway of the coffee shop. He could see her through the window, sitting at her usual table in the back corner. Her coffee cup was nearly empty, but she hadn't touched it in a while. Her eyes were distant, lost in thought, as if she were somewhere far away from the small town they grew up in. Jake had no idea what he was walking into. All he knew was that he couldn't keep running from this. He couldn't keep pretending everything was fine. So he pushed the door open and stepped inside, the bell above ringing softly. She didn't see him at first. But when she did, when their eyes finally met, something shifted between them. It was the same pull, the same unspoken connection. Only now, it was different. There was too much between them to ignore. Too much pain, too many unresolved questions. Jake stood there, not sure what to say. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Finally, Emily broke the silence. "Jake, I didn't think you'd come." Her voice was barely above a whisper, like she wasn't sure if she wanted him to be there or if she was terrified of what he might say. "I almost didn't," Jake admitted. His voice was low, but steady. "But I can't keep pretending. I can't keep pretending that I'm okay with us being like this." Emily swallowed hard, her gaze dropping to her hands. "You're right," she said, almost too softly. "I've been running from this. From everything." Jake's heart ached as he watched her. He had always known she was afraid, but seeing her so vulnerable, so broken, made it even harder to ignore the weight between them. The silence stretched between them, thick and suffocating. It felt like everything they had built, everything they were, was teetering on the edge of breaking. "Why did you leave, Em?" Jake asked, his voice cracking. He didn't mean to sound desperate, but it came out anyway. "What was I supposed to do when you just walked away?" Emily looked up at him, her eyes filled with pain. "I thought I had to leave to find myself. I thought I needed to be alone to figure out who I really was." She paused, her voice trembling as she continued. "But the truth is, I don't even know who I am without you." Her words landed in the space between them, heavy and raw. It wasn't a confession he had expected, but it was one he had needed to hear. Jake took a step forward, his heart pounding in his chest. He reached out to touch her hand, but before he could, she pulled back, her face a mixture of guilt and fear. "I don't know what to do anymore," she whispered. "I don't know if we can fix this." Jake's stomach twisted. "Then what are we supposed to do, Em? What happens now?" Emily's eyes filled with tears, but she quickly wiped them away. She stood up abruptly, backing away from him, as though the distance was the only thing keeping her from falling apart. "I don't know," she said, voice shaking. "I thought I did. But I don't." Jake watched her, his chest tightening. It felt like the ground was slipping out from under him. He couldn't fix it. He couldn't make it better. Not like this. "I guess we'll have to see, won't we?" he said softly, his words barely above a whisper. As Emily turned and walked toward the door, Jake stayed rooted to the spot. His heart was pounding in his chest, but his feet wouldn't move. Sometimes the hardest thing is knowing when to hold on, and when to let go. But sometimes the choice is made for you. The morning after Emily walked away, the town seemed quieter than usual. Jake sat in his truck, parked by the old diner, watching as people went about their day, life carrying on like it always did. But it didn't feel like life anymore. It felt like something was missing, like a piece of the world had disappeared. He didn't know how long he'd been sitting there, but when he looked at the clock, it was almost noon. The diner door opened, and out stepped Emily. She didn't see him at first, but when she did, their eyes locked, just for a moment. She wasn't the same as the night before. There was something lighter about her, like she had made a decision, even though she hadn't said a word. She stepped down the steps of the diner, her boots scraping against the pavement. Jake felt the weight of her every step, as though he was holding his breath until she came closer. When she finally reached his truck, she hesitated, her eyes searching his face. It was like she was waiting for him to say something first. But Jake couldn't say anything. He was too afraid that if he did, the moment would slip away. "I'm sorry," Emily said, her voice soft but steady. "For everything. For leaving. For making you think you weren't enough." Jake swallowed hard, his throat tight. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words got stuck. Instead, he reached for the door handle and stepped out of the truck. Slowly, he closed the distance between them. "I thought you had all the answers, Em," he said quietly. "But you didn't, and neither did I." Emily nodded, her eyes glistening. "I know. I thought I needed space to figure things out, but I just needed to face the truth." She paused, her voice breaking. "The truth is, I never wanted to leave. I just didn't know how to stay." Jake reached out, his hand gently cupping her face. There was no hesitation now, just the weight of all the unspoken things they had carried for so long. He could see the fear in her eyes, but there was something else too, hope. "You don't have to figure it all out by yourself," Jake said softly. "We're in this together, Em. Always have been." She closed her eyes, the tears slipping down her cheeks. "I was scared," she whispered. "Scared of being stuck, of never having the chance to be who I really am. But I'm realizing now. I was already that person. With you." Jake's heart swelled at her words. He wanted to pull her close, to hold her and never let go. But this time, he wasn't rushing it. He wasn't trying to fix everything with a quick fix. He wanted to build something that could last. Emily stepped closer to him, her hands finding his. The space between them was gone now, and the weight of the past few days began to lift. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But there was a new understanding between them, an understanding that they could both grow together. "I'm sorry I didn't fight for us," Emily said, her voice barely a whisper. "But I want to fight now. I want to do this right." Jake smiled, a quiet, tender smile that reached his eyes. "I've always been here, Em. You don't have to fight alone." They stood there for a long moment, just holding each other's gaze. It felt like the world had slowed down, like everything was still for once. The quiet of the town seemed to wrap around them like a soft blanket, and for the first time in days, Jake felt peace. It wasn't a grand declaration. There were no fireworks or dramatic gestures. There were no words that could fully express what they had both been through. But standing there, in the heart of their small town, they knew it was enough. "I don't want to leave again," Emily said, her voice steady now, like she had finally made her decision. "I want to stay. I want to build something that lasts. Something real." Jake's grip on her hands tightened, and he nodded. "We'll build it, Em. Together. One step at a time." They shared a quiet kiss, the kind that said everything without saying a word. It wasn't about passion or urgency, it was about the promise of a future. A future they could face together, with all their scars and baggage, ready to heal and move forward. As they pulled away, Emily looked up at him with a soft smile, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. "You were right," she said quietly. "Sometimes love means letting go. But sometimes it means holding on." Jake's heart felt lighter than it had in months. He hadn't given up hope. He'd been patient, even when it hurt, even when it felt like they were drifting apart. And now, finally, it was paying off. Jake took a deep breath, smiling at Emily. For the first time, he felt like they were finally in the same place. Not because everything was perfect, but because they were both willing to fight for it. As they walked back toward the diner together, hand in hand, Jake knew there would still be hard days ahead. But for the first time, he wasn't afraid of the future. They had each other now, and that was enough. Do you believe some things are worth fighting for, even when it seems impossible? If this story touched your heart, drop a heart in the comments and let me know. Because sometimes, love finds a way, when you least expect it. Thank you for watching this story to the end. If you enjoyed this story, you will surely love the next one. It's as crazier and more intriguing as you can ever imagine. So do check it out. Click on the image showing on your screen right now to watch the next one.